Hello, my dear friends. You are on my channel Garrett Speaks. I filmed a lot of my videos in Israel. For example, a video about the names of seashells or a video about beach activities. Today, I want to tell you about my life in Israel and about this country. You can live in Israel if you like a hot, sunny climate. The sun shines here almost all year round. Israel is a country with a very interesting climate, which combines different types depending on the region. Mediterranean on the coast. If you find yourself on the Mediterranean coast, for example in Tel Aviv or Haifa, you will find a typical Mediterranean climate. Summers there are hot and dry. The temperature easily rises above 30 degrees Celsius. In the fall, when the rainy season begins, the air becomes more humid. Winters are mild but rainy, and the temperature rarely drops below 10 degrees Celsius. Desert and heat. But if you go south to the Negev region, there is a different story. It is a desert. Summers are hotter and drier here, to the point of impossibility, with temperatures reaching 40 degrees Celsius. However, at night it can get very cold, which is typical of a desert climate. In winter, there is almost no rain, and it is still quite warm. Jerusalem and the hills. Jerusalem is located at a higher elevation, and the climate here is slightly cooler. Summer remains hot, but the nights are often refreshing. Winters can be quite cool, with light frost and sometimes a rare occurrence in Israel, snow. Galilee and the Golan Heights. In the north, in the Galilee, the climate is something between Mediterranean and continental. Summers are warm, but thanks to their altitude and greenery, not as hot as on the coast or in the desert. Winters can be cool here, and snow is not uncommon in the highest area, especially on Mount Hermon, where people even ski. General features. Israel is interesting because in this small country you can find everything from subtropical beaches to snow-capped mountains. Humidity in coastal areas sometimes makes the heat especially difficult, and in desert regions you need to be prepared for dryness and sudden temperature changes. There are many interesting places in Israel. For example, right now you can see my trip to the ancient city of Acre on the screen. This is a city with a very interesting history, which I have described in detail in several videos. Acre is a very beautiful and interesting city. Most house architecture is in the Arabic style. To be honest, the city seems to have come out of an ancient Oriental fairy tale. One of the most exciting places is the Templar Tunnel. This is not just a tunnel, but a real secret path built by the Knights Templar in the 12th century. It connected their fortress with a port, allowing them to secretly move between them. Walking through the tunnel, you feel like you are in the Middle Ages. Stone walls, dim lighting, all this creates an atmosphere of mystery. In addition, the engineering of that time is surprising. After all, the tunnel partly runs underground and was carefully camouflaged. The neglect of Akko is noticeable in some places, but the outskirts are actively growing with luxurious new areas. In Israel, this is almost a narrow city. You can find neighborhoods of gloomy slums, or you can find super modern areas with spectacular architecture, cozy cafes, and fashionable shops. In Akko, to these extremes is added a golden mean, an old city that is unlike either one. In those parts of the city that have earned the city a less than stellar reputation, you can clearly see that this is a remote province, a backwater. However, in addition to this, in Akko, for example, there is the Al Jazer Mosque, the most important in Israel for Muslims after the two Jerusalem mosques, the Dome of the Rock and Al-Aqsa, standing on the Temple Mount. Al-Jaza, by the way, means butcher. This touching nickname was given to the Pasha who ruled the city at the end of the 18th century. It must be assumed that this worthy gentleman was very proud of his nickname if he allowed it to be immortalized in the name of the mosque. According to legend, 3 hairs from the beard of the Prophet Muhammad are kept here. You can imagine the excitement around this mosque. In fact, if we talk about tourism, then Akko is a really wonderful city to visit. There is a lot to see in Old Akko. And to see a variety of sites, you don't have to go far. Turkish baths are one of the most unusual sights of Old Akko. They were built during the Ottoman Empire by Pasha Ahmed al-Jazar, the same butcher. The baths worked for more than 150 years, until the end of the British Mandate in Palestine in 1948. Now they are converted into a museum complex. In the large hall, you can watch a film that, with humor and national Turkish flavor, tells the story of the baths and the dynasty of bath attendants Bashir, who served here throughout the existence of the baths. But the most interesting thing is further. The baths are inhabited by people, or rather by sculptures, dark gray as if also drawn with a graphite pencil. Massage, hookah, conversations over tea. The creators of the exhibition were attentive to details: design, bath accessories, dishes, clothes. Yes, even in the bath, not everyone is undressed. And these details of someone else's life are really interesting to look at. Akko, which the Arabs call Akka, the Greeks Aki, the Egyptians called Ak, the Crusaders called Acre, and the French knights even Saint Jean d'Acre, arose at least 2,000 years before Christ. There is evidence of an earlier existence of a city on this site, but all of them are not reliable enough. Situated on the northernmost edge of Haifa Bay, it was very convenient for mooring ships, which contributed to the rapid development of commerce, making Acre a point intersection of various trade routes. But this very convenience for mooring also determined another fate of ancient Acre. The persons who owned these islands in the 7th century BC set up a naval base here to attack Egypt. From then until the end of the century before last, Acre was always an important Mediterranean port, the importance of which only grew over time. And, of course, it was no less interesting for me to visit the Templar fortress itself. This is a huge citadel with massive walls and powerful gates. Inside, you'll find spacious halls and narrow corridors that were once used by knights for meetings and trainings. I have already mentioned that there are many hot days in Israel. Sometimes, when I got tired of the sea, I went to the pool. Of course, the Mediterranean is wonderful, but sometimes this sand sticking to your body is so annoying. I really liked the outdoor pool. This pool is very spacious, so people swimming in it do not interfere with each other. Also, one part of the pool is covered with a canopy. Of course, it is a pity that you cannot buy fruit or soft drinks near the pool. But I still enjoyed relaxing there. Look at what bright and juicy photos I've got! Probably love for Israel begins with the sea. My greatest pleasure was to get to know the Mediterranean Sea in all its forms. Sometimes it is so stormy that it is absolutely impossible to swim in it. Angry waves furiously crash onto the shore. And sometimes the sea is so calm that the water seems frozen in place. Also, the sea is completely different in different seasons, just like at different times of the day. I can sit by the sea for a very long time and watch how the colors gradually change. And there are always a lot of shells on the shore. It is a great pleasure for me to sort through the shells in my hands, examining them. It seems that I have hundreds of photos of the coast covered with shells on my phone. And still, the photos do not convey all the charm of this gorgeous place. It is simply impossible not to fall in love with the sea. Just as it is impossible to describe in words its gentle power, its soothing sounds, its salty air. The main thing is not to forget to take a shower right on the shore after swimming in the sea, so that the salt does not corrode the skin. It is also very important not to forget to use sunscreen and protect your head from the sun's rays. Of course, most often I forget about these tips. Louis Ariel Goldschmidt Zoo. It is a very nice place. Unlike most zoos I've visited, you don't get the impression that the animals are unhappy here. It is a small but very interesting zoo where you can have a good time. Lots of shade, benches, coffee, and ice cream. A rich program including a museum and a botanical garden. Haifa Zoo is located in a picturesque place on the slopes of Mount Carmel. It is a fairly large, green, very well-kept park with many flowers, trees, and even a stream. The animals are kept in conditions as close to reality as possible. Not all have cages, they are replaced by open enclosures. Peacocks, for example, calmly cross the paths. Even bears can be observed not through glass. The zoo is stretched from top to bottom. At the lowest point, there is a beautiful view of the mountainside covered with forest and the sea in the distance. But be prepared to walk up and down the mountain path. This zoo is not very big, but you can see many different animals in their natural habitats. You can go into some of the enclosures and watch the animals and birds in close proximity to them. There are also very rare animals, for example fossa, half cat, half marten, and ring-tailed lemur kata, Madagascar endemics, rare Argentine mini horse Ferrabella, African honey badger. There are various monkeys, capuchins, tamarins, marmosets, baboons, Brazza monkeys. Of course, there are many parrots here, macaw, various cockatoos, and special macaws speaking Hebrew, Russian, and English. The zoo has large areas for Syrian brown bears, lions, white tigers, dromedary camels, an enclosure for birds of prey. You can enter and admire the white-headed vultures, an enclosure for waterfowl, pelicans, ibises, and flamingos. There is an area with meerkats, an enclosure for coyotes, an enclosure for South American maras, foxes, phoenix. There is a caracal, a leopard, striped hyenas, flying foxes, eagle owls, giant turtles, and much more.